Welcome to the CE Pro podcast. I'm executive editor Arlen Schweiger. Have you started selling wellness solutions yet? Do you know what biophilia covers? What about how assistive living plays into this category? You know, the role of today's residential integrator is expanding more than ever, and it's a lot to keep track of. So we grabbed Walt Zerbe, CEDIA's Senior Director of Technology and Standards, to help put some of these broad topics into better focus in this week's episode. Walt Zerbe, Senior Director of Technology and Standards at CEDIA. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely, Arlen. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, Walt, we wanted to really dig into the wellness and biophilia category in the podcast today. It's something certainly that CE Pro has been covering now for a while, and we know CEDIA is becoming more involved with in this aspect for its members. Just to start off, let's talk about, obviously, there are many elements involved in wellness. Maybe you could just kind of run through some of those briefly, and then tell us a little bit about, which specific ones, CEDIA right now is the most bullish on for integrators and why.
Sure. So as we all know, this word wellness is going crazy. Everything is wellness, and I think COVID has definitely accelerated wellness. And I think people have realized or rediscovered their homes. They just took the homes, I think, for granted, and pretty much hangout spaces, go to bed, get up and leave. And now that people are home, the opportunity for wellness and things like that has never been greater. I know that we are seeing record growth right now in lighting. Lighting is always, the US has always taken a backseat to Europe in lighting. It's always been a heck of a lot more exciting in Europe. And it stems from the toggle switch and the decorator switch. That's all we had forever. Now we've got some actual designs where we have some 50 by 50 millimeter product. It's actually more attractive. We've got glass and metal and different surfaces. And couple that with color temperature lighting, which is nicely being marketed by people to get consumer awareness. People aware of it, like Philips Hue, GE, Lutron. There's a whole bunch of other companies that do this. Now, lighting is one of probably the key wellness areas that we're seeing growth. Lighting is now becoming a big ticket item. It's becoming a major contributor to margin on a job, and it has a huge effect on how somebody feels when they're in their space, being able to change the color temperature. So we've seen lighting. I'm going to classify that as wellness. We've also seen immersive everything. And, we're finally at the point, like with audio, they tried to sell high definition audio and thought people would pay more money to get Tidal or to get any of these other higher quality streaming services. But to really notice the benefit of that, you need to have a system capable of with the resolution and the proper setup so you can actually hear those minute differences.
Sure,
But
exactly.
yeah, but with the movies now being streamed directly to the home, people can absolutely tell the difference between an immersive audio experience and a stereo audio experience. So I'm going to also chalk down immersive experiences, and in particular immersive audio. I know that people are going through the roof installing immersive systems. That is absolutely a wellness thing too, because all the album companies are remixing their albums into immersive and or creating new ones in immersive formats. So those are two right off the bat, I would say, are directly controlled by us, integrators and CEDIA channel type people.
So almost just a new way of looking at the audio category in general, because I know I think the word soundscaping has been used a lot, but maybe more like you think of that and you think of like nature sounds, but you're talking about just any kind of immersive audio, really.
Well, that's another application of it. So if you want to go towards the biophilia side, which is, I know everyone agrees it's a terrible term. Yes, that would be piping in if you can, in an immersive way, nature sounds. The third area I think that's really continuing to grow is outside, or bringing outside in. Outside lighting, outside audio. That I would consider that another wellness, because getting out of the house is a good thing to do. You feel good when you're outside, and it's another area we can completely, control ourselves.
Yeah, and going from there, what about some of the other elements, the indoor air quality, water purification, things like that?
Those are all part of it, but I'd like to bring that into the discussion of the larger, the bigger picture that I wanted to kind of talk to you about today, if I may.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about, those individual aspects about it. And then, certainly from a CEDIA standpoint, the association obviously is huge on the education side. So we
Mhm.
wanted to talk about, with all of those individual facets of wellness, just how integrators can become, more well versed on these topics and better educated, and then, what they need to know about designing systems, who they need to collaborate with, things like that. So I know, Walt, you definitely had something prepared for us. So let's walk through that kind of thing.
Sure. Let me share. All right. So I'm a big fan of mind mapping. I use mind maps for kind of everything. And I think if you're not familiar with mind mapping, I definitely suggest that you get familiar with mind mapping, because it's a great way to capture ideas and thoughts quickly and organize them. So I had to think on this, and this goes back to the CEDIA Technology Council, which I'm part of, to our standards, to education. When we bring up words like wellness, we need to get into wellness. How are we going to get into wellness? Well, really, what is wellness? And what is biophilia? And what is a lot of these things? So I started breaking it down into basically three main areas. So the first area that we have are our cores. And the cores that we all know are networking and lighting and audio and video and automation, sensors, security, acoustics. There's two new things I'm going to be calling core, and there'll be other things that will become core. But media management. We never talked about media management as a core before, but media management should be a core, because it's a bane of a lot of people's existence. If you can't use your stuff, if you can't find what you want to do, that's a problem. And what we need to do is simplify people's life. Simplicity is the new luxury. And that's exactly what we should be doing with every one of these things. The other one is interaction design and usability. And this goes for people that are fully functional to people that have disabilities, whether it's a voice, whether they're sight impaired, they're hearing impaired, they need tactile things, touch screens are okay. No, they need buttons. This has, I think, also become a lot more important than it ever has been. And we're going to call all those things education. Okay.
Certainly, that makes a ton of sense.
And just stop me wherever you want if you want to interject or.
No, that all looks good. Especially the media management, just dealing with the glut of everything that is out there these days. Absolutely.
I mean, I'm challenged myself with it, and and I'd like to consider myself in the know. So the next thing is discovery. Now, this is something that happens on every job, but I don't think we're doing enough discovery. And I think discovery is an area where all of us really need to improve. So you need to have empathy for the person you're doing the job for. You need to step in their shoes. You need to understand every family member. You need to understand the needs of every family member. You need to observe what they do, how they do it. And if you want to take it to the nth degree, you can do something called ethnographic research, where you actually, and this is on maybe a more extreme case, but it is a definite tool to be used in the right situation. You stay with them and you watch how they interact with things, with lighting, with their audio video systems, with their heating and cooling. And then what from that, you will learn, what do they have problems with? What do they do well? What don't they do well? How could you make life better? And I'm going to call all these things human skills. So I think we definitely need to improve human skills. And I'm building to the end here. Why is Walt going through networking? These cores and going through observation. No duh, I do that. I'm an integrator. Because all these things are necessary to do something called wellness. So what is wellness on its own? It's a recipe of all the things here, and it's a recipe of cores and discovery. And then once you've gotten your proper discovery, then you'll know which cores you need to use, and then you can prescribe a wellness solution. We've changed home theater to immersive. As you know, on the education side, I also head up the standards side, and we do a lot of stuff at standards, and standards drive the education. We used to have something called CEB 22 and CEB 23. Those are recommended practices for home theater audio and home theater video. We've lost the word home theater. It's about immersive. It could be gaming. It could be a nature scene, just like we talked about, that has ambient sound around for relaxation in that room that has controlled acoustics. So that's how we're growing and emerging. Huddle spaces, simulators, Immersive Gym, which happens to be and one of the offerings in the Propel program, assisted living. So the new core that we need to add to the cores is collaborate. I'd venture to say that a lot of collaboration that most integrators are doing today hasn't changed much in 20, 30 years. It's probably the electrician, got to coordinate with the electrician. You need to know your stages with the builder, so you don't put your wires in at the wrong time, the insulators, the drywallers, and internationally, all those other things too. But now to pull off wellness, you're not an HVAC contractor. You're not a water system installer. You might not be doing all low voltage lighting. You might need to work with a lighting designer, because lighting design is completely different than hooking up lighting. So this is an area I guarantee you that an integrator needs to be focusing on to properly pull these things off. And that's kind of what I wanted to go through. This is the summation of everything. This is the key to being able to do any of these buzzwords. You can enter your name here. Whatever that recipe's called, it's still made up of these things. And if you don't master these things, you're not going to pull the recipe off.
Right. So it sounds like we're going to have to talk to the integrator community and do what seems to be a lot of rethinking about the way certain categories are, and then a lot more relationship building in terms
Yep.
of finding those collaborative efforts there. So yeah, let's definitely, go through a little bit more about, just ways that they should go about doing that. If someone says, hey, Walt, I'm really interested in this stuff. I don't even know where to begin. What's the response going through all this stuff to get to that point of that design phase?
And is this the potential customer asking this question, or is this the
This
integrator?
is the integrator asking
The
this
integrator.
question.
Okay. So I would say that the integrator at that point in time probably has the answers, just hasn't stepped back to look at it. We're probably the most guilty of getting set in our ways. I know we're involved in technology. We try to be forward thinking, but lots of times I do it this way because I do it this way and I've always done it this way. So you need to you're already you do things in your house that annoy you, and you do it every single time, but you don't really think about, gosh, that annoys me. Maybe I should think about a different way of doing that. And I think some internal reflection from an integrator on how people live, how they live with technology, and how they can use their skill sets to better someone else's life is all they have to do. They really are just repitching what they know and what they're doing, and selling it or providing it in a completely different manner.
And are you finding in talking to the integrators that the customer is changing these days because of all the different things that are available to them? Or, is the customer awareness level, does that match the integrator awareness level? Is it like, with other categories where, they can say, hey, I don't really know what's out there for 4K. I have no idea, why should I, just thinking about that as a category, why do I need to go from 1080p to 4K? Why do I need to go to 8K? What's OLED? Did the integrators have those same answers nowadays for customers that, may come to them and say, okay, indoor air quality, what can I do to improve this? I have no idea.
Yeah, I think it's both. I mean, we all have had customers, and I was in business a long time ago, that will ask you some really tough things to do. They heard about something, they read about something, and you may decide to try to figure that out, or you may decide that's too risky to figure out. So, but now I do think we should be more on the education side. I think people know about what they've heard marketed through the mass media. They know about voice control. They know about, I think they're starting to know about lighting. I think they may be starting to get into wellness a little bit more. But what you need to do as an integrator is you need to make them understand how, like, for instance, your house. If you simply provided some data that shows that a typical house has this much dust in it, has this many VOCs flying around in the air, and and all these types of things, let alone the lighting. You've already got the lighting thing understood. You've got the audio and you got the immersive. This is more towards getting wellness into the picture.
Hmm.
If you simply provide them some data, they'll be like, gosh, I had no idea that my house indoor air quality was worse in most all cases than the outside air quality. And I think it's again, it's all about relationships, and it's about providing solutions that would make people's lives better. Of course, they'll ultimately decide where they want to throw their money because they have a X amount budget. But I guarantee you, if you can sell it on the wellness, health, and security side, they will tend to definitely throw money on that side.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And it sounds like integrators um, will definitely need to be doing a lot more legwork in the research department to find these things, to arm themselves with their own research and statistics, and like you said, maybe go to HVAC guys to know how to talk the talk when it comes to those kind of things.
Yep, NAHB, other places like that. I can cite a particular interesting trend. So back in the 80s and 90s, when I was doing installations, it was a very hard sell to a builder to do structured wiring. They're like, why do we need that? People got speakers. Okay. They got TV sound. Lighting control, not so much. Now, because of all the advertising by Ring, Nest, and the like,
Mhm.
we're doing a leadership series of webinars. We've got another one that hits tomorrow. We've had somebody on there from Zonda, and they have national data about what's going on in the builder world. They said you pretty much can't build a house now without a front door camera because there is now consumer demand. I want that feature. So there's pull for tech, and it's funny. Tech has always been hot on a builder's mind. They had silent floor joists. They had preformed superior walls for foundations. They've had a ton of different plumbing things, roofing things, insulation things, but the actual tech stuff they were not comfortable with. Now people are requesting it. So of course we've all said this till we're blue in the face. You're going to have to sell someone on a solid network. That's the first thing.
Sure, of course.
But yeah, there's pull starting, but I think we need to focus on educating our customer. Not You never give them what they necessarily ask for. And I've had this lesson with industrial designers when I was building products. I'd ask for this, they'd give me four things I didn't ask for. Then they'd give me the thing I asked for, and I ended up settling on the thing I didn't ask for because they knew if they worked me through that process and I was actually irritated, I would arrive at where they thought I should be than where I thought I should be. And that's what the integrator needs to do.
Are you finding that integrators are, making their way into more, builder show homes, things like that? And do the builders know to go to places like CEDIA to hop on, webinars that you guys do and say, "Oh yeah, we need that, we need that." Is it becoming more connected? I mean, I'm just thinking back
Yeah.
to a few months ago where, I posted an item about Taylor Morrison talking about
Yep.
these new, wellness homes that they're building, and they seem to be really involved in it. And, they're going to have these showcase homes with that feature all these sorts of amenities. And I'm just wondering how that connection is going in terms of where they're hooking up with integrators to provide this stuff, and then also educate them more on, hey, you should have this in your showcase, and you should do this.
That connection is definitely going in the right direction. And just like Taylor Morrison, a lot of builders are now differentiating themselves as a value add to be tech friendly.
Mm.
And just like there used to be a saying about Japanese electronics manufacturers. Once one person does something, all the others follow. So you can use that as an integrator as an example. Maybe you don't even have Taylor Morrison in your area, but you could say, look, here's the builder. They put it in every house, at least some minimum type of package. So yeah, I think the tides are turning. And as far as demo homes go, I do know that they do build demo homes, and my wife's a realtor, and she is now having to deal with a lot more technology too. So we're not just always fighting for kitchen cabinets, flooring, and countertops. Tech is now getting a piece of that budget as well.
Right. Yeah, that's good to hear. And I know it seems like every month we're posting an item about how well new construction is doing right now. So we know this stuff is being built and is in pretty high demand nationwide, it seems.
Yeah.
So Walt, let's move on in terms of some more specific technologies. Let's talk about the CEDIA Propel program that you touched upon. So it launched last year with some of these cutting edge solutions. I believe we had the bright restorative bed in there
Yep.
and the immersive gym that you mentioned. Can
Yep.
you just explain a little bit what makes these solutions so attractive? Why did CEDIA gravitate toward them?
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find products that are innovative, relate to our channel, and relate to where tech in the world is going. So if you take a look at sleep, sleep is something that affects everyone and is something that a lot of people aren't getting enough of, and recently have really been doing a poor job at. This bright bed is all about trying to have you get a good night's sleep, and there's all kinds of products that you can get right for sleep and for monitoring. This is an Aura ring, and I use the Aura ring when I remember to look at the data. I look at the data, but I do wish I had a bed that wasn't just a dumb mattress, and I hate the word smart. So this particular bed, without getting too much into the product, has a whole bunch of basically actuators in it. So it can conform your side of the bed to you, someone else's side of the bed to them, and it can make it very comfortable for you in various positions and various moods that you're in, temperature control, as well as monitoring and feedback. So that's a product that clearly falls in the wellness bucket and is a luxury product. So that would be a unique product. As far as immersive
So the
gym
luxury,
goes,
so the luxury amenity sounds, so that makes it ideal for the custom guys then in terms of, we're just giving them something that's a real good value add premium solution for, the kind of premium clientele that they deal with.
correct. That's absolutely right. And another one of those luxury value add items, we also have Ring. Ring is on there too, but the immersive gym is fits really nicely into our bailiwick of what we do. And I'm just going to go back here, and sorry for looking around the corner here, and share my screen. Immersive Gym is a recipe of a bunch of stuff. It's networking, it's lighting, it's audio, it's video, it's automation. It can be HVAC, it can be acoustics, it can be absolutely every one of those things. And by saying immersive, I believe Immersive Gym requires a minimum of 120-degree field of view to consider something to be immersive. So basically, what that's saying is you just can't have a big screen in the front. You need to have screens on the side. And that is purely in our world of capability to deliver well and to deliver properly. But that same immersive gym could also be a chill out space. It could be a wellness space. It could be yoga. It could be meditation. So we thought that product was really well suited for our channel and for the term wellness and the term biophilia.
Sure. So it sounds like it's another great solution that integrators can go, and when they're, doing kind of a survey of a home, might look at a secondary room that the homeowner thinks is really good for, some other recreational activity, but the integrator can say, hey, have you thought about doing this in this room? This looks like a perfect spot for an immersive gym.
Yeah, when you think when you think about it, if you had that, I know if I had that, or if that was at my house, my family would be clamoring to get in that room. So,
Yeah, that's another good option for them. Definitely. It's another good way to kind of rethink, what the room's potential are as they're looking through a home, I think. So
yep.
that makes a lot of sense. Well, tell me from your perspective, obviously, as a tech guy, you stay up on these kind of solutions. You poke around here and there. You're following what the latest big things are, like Bright and Immersive Gym. Um, is there anything else that you've seen recently? Let's just say maybe in the last 6 months. Obviously, we had the CEDIA Expo virtual.
Hmm.
We just had CES. I know I was poking around and found a similar type of restorative bed from, I think, a company called Ergo Motion that looked really cool. What are some of the things that you're kind of keeping an eye on, and you know maybe they need a little bit more maturation process, but things, anything that you've heard or seen that's kind of caught your attention, and you could see making a little bit of headway.
Yeah. Let me see. There are a bunch of things going on. I have to say, I'm pretty interested in what Sony's doing with their hyperreal stuff. They're trying to bring these truly immersive experiences to the home, and I think that's something that everyone gets and everyone can easily understand, easily prescribe to. The other things I've got an eye on is the other area that we are trying to figure out. I think we're all trying to figure out, which is living in place
Hmm.
or assisted living, which is again another recipe of the core skills and the empathy or the discovery process. It's no different than any of the other things. And we all know that we're all going to be living in our homes longer. We're not going to have the square footage for everyone to go to a I hate to say the word, but an old age home. And we're also not going to have the money because it's very expensive. So we're going to
Sure.
need the tech. It's going to happen, and we're well suited to put the tech in. So I'm very interested in gait analysis products, and that's spelled GAIT. So you can tell a lot about a person how they walk, and the gait analysis products will scan the area and notice you in kind of skeleton stick form. So it doesn't show a video of you. It kind of represents your actual bone structure. And if your gait changes, there's probably something wrong. And if you've fallen, it can detect that you've fallen. So I think the gait analysis stuff is really interesting. On the security front, I think it's Linksys Aware. I think that's the name of the product. They're now, it's in its infancy. So as we talked about this infancy stuff, they're now doing products where as you disturb the Wi-Fi in the house, they can see movement and they can detect mass. They'll be able to detect and determine whether it's a pet, whether it's a person. They say they're going to eventually be able to develop the technology where they can even see respiration rates. So I think we'll see if that happens. But yeah, I've got my ear and eye across the area. Basically, I think we're well handled right now in the immersive stuff, albeit VR and AR. I think AR is going to be going up sharply in a little bit. I think VR still has a bit to go because of the big clunky stuff on your head.
Right.
But yeah,
You don't want to
kind of all
follow
over
the
the
road
place.
that 3D took, well, a decade ago, in terms of people just not wanting to wear that stuff. It's a good point, certainly.
Well, with
Let's
glasses, I can't. They don't
right.
fit.
Let's talk a little bit more about the assistive living and the living in place, and that kind of, let's call it like a wellness adjacent category. And what you were talking about, um, with the gait analysis made me think a little bit of a conference I went to a few years ago with PERS, the Personal Emergency Response Systems. And everything that was being done in terms of PERS and mobile PERS products and devices that again had all those, obviously it was the home safety elements to those. And it seemed like, that category was exploding with all sorts of technology. We're going to have a contribution that Giles Sutton from CEDIA uh, has handed off to CE Pro, and it talks a lot about this category. And in it, he actually quoted CEDIA instructor Peter Aylett that he talked about this opportunity having the potential. This is a quote from him to eclipse every other category of product that the CEDIA channel specifies and installs. So, which I thought was a very bold statement. So if you don't mind, let's just go a little bit more into that in terms of, you know, what technology acumen is involved right now that integrators can already get a leg up on if they want to know exactly what might be involved in this. And then again, what sort of education they can find to, become more proficient and just learn about this. Because like you said, it is something that is going to be huge in our society. We've known this for years in the United States, um, but it definitely is something that the integrator channel can really embrace.
This is an area I also need to do more learning on. I would assume that there are different levels of assistance and what assistance is. So, and at some point for education, you're going to need to get education directly from manufacturers that make specific products that would address specific needs. So, as a general, the only advice I can give is you got to be really proficient with your cores. You have to be really proficient with your discovery, so you know what someone needs. And then you need to really be proficient with the collaboration, because you need to go out and find the products and find the companies that can help you. I think in many cases you're going to become the technology general contractor, and you're going to need to coordinate all of the trades to pull off the solution for someone, which means impeccable documentation, impeccable communication, and impeccable understanding of the needs. And that's about as far as I can go into it, because I can't give a simple answer of, yeah, this is what you do, because I'm trying to learn that myself as well.
Sure. Is it a category, I know just from recalling about a decade ago, there seemed to be a few companies here and there that were working on, you know, telehealth, remote health, that kind of thing to enable this type of category for integrators. Is it something where almost now, as you mentioned before, builders are really embracing technology more? Will the assisted living category be something where now the end user is ready to embrace the integrator at least a bit, much more than they might have in the past?
I think the end user is way ahead of the builder and is ahead of the integrator. I used to attend a bunch of building conferences that were held at Harvard, and it it's interesting. Their definition of assisted living was grab bars and watching elevation changes so you wouldn't trip, and the level of light switches. No tech was brought into that, or automation of any kind into that discussion. That's one of the things that we need to do. Is you should be a member, hopefully, of your local building chapter, or or whatever that is abroad, and you should be working with designers, and you should be working on educating yourself so you can educate them, so you can all kind of start to figure this out together and understand it. Yeah, it's interesting. My wife recently has had requests, even for simple stuff, for people that want to live on one level. They want a house that has everything on one level. In my
Yep.
area, that's really hard to find. So just a basic structure. So if you don't have a one level structure, how are you going to change that structure so someone that is living in place can continue to use that structure, for a very long time while they're having some challenges. So I
Yeah,
guess, and your
that's
answer, I guess, answered, Arlen.
No, it's a good point, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned that about the one level structure, because I know where I am as well in terms of at least new construction that's popping up. I mean, forget about it. It's all giant homes that are being made. It's really they're not looking at this segment of the demographic, and it kind of makes you scratch your head and think, well, why not? There's
Yeah.
such potential there. So
And it's all going to be largely retrofit because there's a lot more existing places than there
mhm.
are, new ones. So,
Exactly. So it's a good segue, Walt. One final thing that I wanted to ask you is in terms of um, talking to CEDIA members, integrators, just back to what we've been saying about the wellness category, um, and how they are pitching these solutions to consumers, and what consumers, what they're seeing in terms of consumer education, consumer awareness. Um, just any last comments that you have in terms of, what you're hearing from integrators about anything special that they're doing. Um, are they doing different kinds of, whatever, lunch and learns, anything to make the potential customer base more aware of what's going on, and anything that they're doing to their own showrooms or show homes. Obviously, we know a lot of integrators um, still put together their own, use their own homes as demo homes. Are they outfitting their own homes with these types of solutions so that they can then show them off? Obviously, COVID concerns notwithstanding, of course.
yeah, and that COVID concerns one is kind of it. I'm not aware of any new major investments in demo home stuff, but I do know that that's where it ultimately is going to work, to get somebody to really understand what it can be like. So, the only other thing is, even something as simple as lighting control. There are a lot of simple stories that you can tell people, when they say, "Why do I need lighting control?" You can say, "You already have lighting control." And they can say, "What do you mean?" And you can say, "Well, when you unlock your car and open your door, your light goes on, and it rises slowly, and then you get in the car and you start the engine and the light dims down. That's lighting control, and you expect that to happen. If that light's burned out or doesn't do what it's supposed to do, you're irritated. But it just worked, and it worked in the background. So I would say that it's again, without having to show, showing things is always the best, but it's about the story. I think everyone needs to work on their storylines so they can so they can describe how someone may interact with their home, how they may make their life simpler and less complicated, because it's gotten a heck of a lot more complicated recently with everyone needing to work from home all at the same time and learn from home and everything else. So I would say that while, again, I'm just repeating myself, while a demo home is good, a story is better.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's definitely more that they can be doing when when they are able to go into customers' homes. And we know certainly business has been really good for integrators over the last year. We had kind of that dip, but then things picked back up. So we know there's a lot of projects going on, a lot of site surveys. And I think one of the key messages is, we hear a lot of integrators that say, okay, we don't sell products, we sell lifestyle
Hmm.
solutions. That seems to be the point to hammer home
Yep,
with what you're saying.
exactly.
Way to just kind of, talk the talk and walk the walk to back it up. So
Completely agree.
great. Well, with that being said, certainly wellness and biophilia will consider to be a very exciting category. And Walt, we want to thank you for being on the CE Pro podcast and sharing your insights with us.
Arlen, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.